Welcome back to the Postpartum Plan podcast. This podcast is designed to support and empower you through postpartum. Whether you're expecting, in the early postpartum days, or beyond, this space is for you. I'm your host, Madison Fugere, a dedicated postpartum doula and pediatric sleep consultant, striving to help parents feel confident and supported in their parenting journey. Each week, I'm sharing practical tips and expert advice to help you navigate all the postpartum things with confidence. Well, as much confidence as you can. Let's embark on this journey together, making your parenthood as serene and supportive as possible. Maria Peddy has been working with families in lactation for nearly 10 years, originally working in maternity at UMass Memorial Hospital, both in the postpartum unit and the NICU, before transitioning to in-home support. Her goal is to always educate and support families however they choose to feed their baby. Yay, Maria's here. It's so excited to have you on the podcast. I just said I for some reason always thought that you had come on before, but realized that you haven't. This is your first episode with me.
I think we've talked about it in the past. I think we've never got around to it.
Right? Yeah. I know, it's crazy. But I'm so excited. We were just saying that today's episode will probably be a short and sweet, here's your info kind of topic, but it's one that I've been asked about a couple times. Some clients of mine that have gone through the weaning process and are overwhelmed by it. I also have people, when I asked what type of breastfeeding and feeding questions do you have, this topic tends to come up. So I'm excited to have you here to chat us through kind of weaning and what really comes along with it and what to expect. So
I know it can be hard for people because everybody is focused in the beginning of just establishing breastfeeding, and then they get towards whatever endpoint they have, and they're like, I didn't even think this far ahead. Now
right.
So that's super common. People kind of just don't know what to think.
Yeah. And I think there's like we mentioned earlier, there is so many different stages in weaning, right? You have some people that may be weaning with a toddler and it's more of a behavioral weaning, getting to that point. Then there's some people that maybe early on have some sort of other reason that they need to wean and they have a full-blown milk supply that they're trying to stop. Or maybe it's you have low supply and you're trying to stop. Whatever it is, awesome. They're all going to be slightly different in kind of how you approach it a little bit, right?
Yeah. The people that want to wean versus the people that have to wean versus the people that are well, we've just kind of come to the end of our journey and it's time now. Those are all three very different weaning parameters, and they have their own challenges that come up with it. So for sure, let's start with the people that are just they've reached the end of their breastfeeding journey and they're I think it's just time.
Yeah.
Those are the ones that tend to be the most emotional, because for most people, they've been breastfeeding for a while. It's not a short-lived thing. They've reached their goal and they have this emotional attachment to it, and their baby or their toddler probably does as well. And a lot of times people that reach that stage, they're breastfeeding for comfort or for naps. It's not really a food source anymore. It's just an emotional attachment. So breaking that emotional attachment, I think, is probably the hardest thing for parents, especially.
Yeah.
The trick with that is there is no trick. It just takes time. It takes time and patience and understanding. Partner support is really important for those types of, partner support is important no matter what. But for that in particular, because for a lot of people that are trying to wean just because it's that time, it involves distraction. Yeah. Somebody else has to be there to help distract them. And it involves, changing habits. For most people, they're always, if they're breastfeeding to nap or they're breastfeeding for comfort, they always have a place that they go to. So they have to sort of break away from that place that they go to do that and say, okay, we're going to develop a new habit now. This is going to be our new normal. Instead of this, we're going to do this.
Right.
Yeah.
It's very similar to when I talk to families about sleep, right? If your kiddo is used to being rocked to sleep or being fed to sleep and we're trying to break that habit, you have to create a new routine. And I talk to a lot of families about whether your kid's like super little or not, like they know routine. Children strive off of routine. So
Yeah.
being able to also just kind of like communicate with them through it, especially if you have like a toddler, I'm sure, right? Being able to be like, oh, we're not doing that anymore, but oh my gosh, look at this like really cool thing that we do get to do, right? And kind of hyping it up. Because oh my gosh, even little ones that really can't like communicate with language totally
Yeah.
understand like those vibes when you share them with them. So,
Yeah. And it really does depend on the kid too. There's some, I've had, I've had families that have had babies that were super attached still
yeah.
to that breastfeeding. And that involved a lot of distraction. And I mean, distraction can be as easy as you take them outside for a walk
Hmm.
instead. Outside is the great distractor. Take your baby
Yes.
outside. Water, basically all of the elements that you can think of. Outside, water, sound, things like that to distract them around those moments that you would normally be breastfeeding.
Yep.
And then there's the babies that are like just kind of go with the flow, right? They're like, yeah, I
Right.
guess it's time. And those are the ones that you can say, this is gonna be a don't offer, don't refuse scenario, right? You're not gonna present it like you normally do, but if they ask, we're not gonna refuse them. Those tend to be a little bit easier because you can kind of distract those kiddos a little bit easier. They're not
Right.
really as attached necessarily to that. And you can just be like, what, we're going to read a story tonight instead of a breastfeed. And they're like, okay, whatever.
Cool.
Yeah.
Sounds good to me.
Well, yeah, exactly.
I love it.
Or, it's easy for them to transition to, if they really need that pre-sleep snack, which a lot of kids do, they need those calories. It's easy for them to transition to a sippy cup or a bottle if they want to do that
Right.
instead.
Right. Just kind of that swap for sure. That makes total
Yeah.
sense. And
Yeah.
those are also really emotional times for like parents too. Like I feel like you were mentioning, it's not just about, the kiddo. It can be a lot for the breastfeeding person too to kind of navigate all of that.
Yeah. And generally what I tell them is all of your emotions are valid. Like every single
Yes.
one of them that you have are going to be completely valid. You're going to be sad. You're going to be happy. You're going to be disappointed. You're going to be anxious. You're going to be mad that you're not, continuing on with this. Like you're going to have
Right.
a whole gamut and they're all valid and you should 100% embrace them and don't rush yourself through it. Like, feel your feelings.
Right.
And if you get to a point and you're like, I don't think I am really ready, that's okay. Then you
Yeah.
offer, they continue, things go on. Like
Right.
but yeah, the emotional aspect of it can definitely be intense for some people. I've definitely had
Absolutely.
people in a weaning consult break down into tears just thinking of
Yeah.
the idea of like, oh, I'm ready for this, but I'm also not ready for
Right.
this.
Well, it becomes like a part of your routine. It becomes part of your
Yeah.
life and your identity, right? And then you also have that special one-on-one time with your kid that I think
Yeah.
a lot of people are like missing. And then there's just that like your kid is growing up kind of feeling, right? I think that is with like anything, like birthdays or milestones that you hit where you're just like it really kind of triggers your brain to like reflect on what's happened since then. And that's
Yeah.
just like really emotional and so,
Yeah.
so, so understandable.
Yes, exactly. But definitely when it comes to the emotional aspect of it, I really tell people don't rush it.
Yeah,
Just if you're feeling feelings, have your feelings and
I love
and
that.
go with the flow of that.
Yes, that's great. So
Yeah.
those are for the people that are just at that point, right? It's just
Yeah.
it's time, we've met our goal, or I'm kind of just done with it, but I'm also
Yeah.
like whatever.
Yeah.
So what happens for those people who kind of just want to be done, right? Like
Yeah.
say, breastfeeding is just really painful for them, or they don't want to pump when they go back to work, so they're offering formula or stored milk.
Yep.
And we're kind of just at that point where we're like, okay, I
Yeah.
want to be done, but I have a
Yeah.
full supply. What do we
Yeah.
do?
Take it slow. So usually it's about dropping individual sessions and we're spacing them out more. So if you're a pumping parent, then you start spacing your pumping sessions out more. And it's a lot of listening to your body and making sure that you're not going to, move yourself into mastitis because you're going too
Right.
quickly. People can get postpartum depression too when they move too quickly because a lot of people don't understand the hormonal drop that goes along with weaning. Like
Yes.
they don't necessarily connect all of the hormones involved with breastfeeding have to establish a new normal and that can be like really hard on your nervous system.
Yeah.
Um So taking their time with that and recognizing, paying attention to their body and their mood. So it really is about taking your time. So if it's a pumping parent, we usually either space it out. So instead of every 3 hours, maybe we're going every 4 hours. Or, sometimes it's, if you're only pumping maybe a couple of times a day and you're ready to drop those last pumping sessions, you drop one and then you give your body a few days in between those drop sessions to like establish itself. Usually I say like 3 to 5 days.
Okay.
Give yourself 3 to 5 days. Pay attention to your body. How's it feeling? Are you feeling over full? How do we manage that? And then if you're ready, you get to the end of that 5 days and you're ready to drop the next one, then you drop the next one. For breastfeeding parents, it's not that dissimilar. You're going to start dropping individual breastfeeding sessions. If they're still pretty young and they need to rely on that milk, we're offering a bottle instead of the breast during those feeding times.
Yep.
And for some people, they want to move away from breastfeeding and transition to formula. So we're introducing a formula bottle. Maybe we need to pump or hand express a little bit to ease some of our discomfort. And we still give ourselves that time, that 3 to 5 day window to like check in with our body, make sure everything's still going well before we start dropping the next session.
Yep. That makes total sense. And I think it's also trying to remember too that like it's stretching it out, but like you said, you have to take it slow, right? I think so many people are like, okay, I'm just so done with this, so like I just want to be done. But it does take like a hot minute, especially if you have like a full-blown supply and you have like a little one or a kiddo that was fully relying on your milk supply, right? Because you're going from a full supply to trying to get to nothing without your baby weaning you, right?
Yeah. And that can cause engorgement problems, and that can lead to plugged ducts and mastitis and all those gross things. I think engorgement is the most common problem that occurs when we're trying to do that, especially if you're somebody that has like maybe a bigger supply. You really have to pay attention to your body and make sure that you're not developing secondary issues just trying to get to your body.
Right. So if people are doing that and they are experiencing like engorgement or things like that, and it hasn't gotten to the point of like mastitis or clogged ducts, what can they do kind of like preemptively? Is there anything else in combination with kind of the low and slow, like anything else they can do to kind of help with, that discomfort a little bit?
Absolutely. So, I mean, the easiest thing is really just to express a small amount of milk.
Okay.
If you're having engorgement issues, hand expression or a hand pump, like we're relieving just the engorgement. We're not emptying the breast because that's sending signals to your body that says, "Oh, I guess I don't really need to make all this milk right now." So we're just gonna, give it a little time, and the body can kind of come down from that. You're basically just taking the edge off. Hot showers are great for that, right? Like if you're engorged, think back to like when your milk first comes in, you get into a hot shower, maybe you do some hand expression, things like that. Hot showers have an impact on your nervous system that helps you relax. And for some people, they leak in the shower, and that's perfectly normal. And that's all we're really going for. We're just trying to ease that over a fullness.
Right. Okay, that makes sense. And if people are experiencing, they're like, okay, I'm starting to get some clogged ducts, right? Like we don't want that to turn into mastitis. Is that a sign like to just slow down, like they're going too quick? They need to kind of take a step backwards, or is that kind of inevitable a little bit for some people?
It's not inevitable, and not everybody is prone to plug ducts. So it kind of just depends on the body. And I would say if you feel like you're developing a plug duct, it doesn't necessarily mean that we need to like reverse course or anything like that. But definitely maybe that 3 to 5 day window isn't enough, right? Maybe we've dropped it, but maybe we need a few more days.
Yep.
And you're still going to be, expressing some small amount of milk, but then you're going to be working specifically in those areas where you're feeling that plug or that clog. And massaging, and remember, anytime I'm teaching anybody hand expression or breast massage, I'm like, your breast is a gland, not a muscle. Be gentle. If you're leaving marks on your skin, you're doing it too hard. And that right there is always mind blowing to people. They're like, "Oh, what?"
It's crazy. It's crazy. Yeah, because people are like, no, you need to like massage it out, but that's truly not the case, right? Like then you're just creating more inflammation.
Yeah, exactly. And inflammation is, I'm glad you said that, because that's essentially what a plug duct is. You have a backup of milk, but it's causing inflammation in that duct. That is what is causing that hardness and that pain, like bruising sensation. So you can put ice on it. That's perfectly fine. Ibuprofen works great for just like the general discomfort of that stuff. But working in that area, there's a technique I teach pretty much all of my clients called breast gymnastics. I don't know if you've ever heard of that. Yeah.
Yes, I
Yeah.
have.
I love it. It's fantastic. I basically teach everybody. Everybody should know how to do it. It's super simple. It's just movement with your breast. But it can be really helpful when you have things like that because it's helping to elongate your milk ducts
Right.
and get interstitial fluid out of the way and make it easier for your milk to flow.
I love that. That's so
Yeah.
awesome.
Yes.
So, what is the difference between people that are experiencing that versus those who are experiencing the fact that they need to wean, right? Like they're at the point where like they have to.
Yeah. For those people, it's generally they're having like recurrent mastitis or, they have an unmanageable oversupply. I've had folks in the past that ended up getting an abscess because they just couldn't, like the baby wasn't breastfeeding well and they couldn't pump everything and it just,
Right.
developed into this really awful thing. And they're like, I'm just done. I'm done with this. I can't do it anymore.
Yeah.
And for some people where it's just unmanageable, there is a way to do it faster, but it's not generally recommended.
Okay.
You can, I'm almost hesitant to even tell people.
I know.
Uh,
I know.
Yeah,
Take this with a grain of salt, you guys.
Yeah, I'm going to preface this by saying don't do this unless you're being monitored by a lactation
Yes.
consultant or some other healthcare professional, and everybody is aware of what you're doing. Please do me a favor and don't do that.
Yes.
So the peppermint tea, honestly, will dry you up real fast. So if you are struggling with oversupply or recurrent mastitis or anything that you're just miserable and you need to just dry up your supply, peppermint tea will dry you up pretty fast. You can drink a couple of cups of that every day and you'll notice your supply drop.
So crazy.
It is. Sudafed also will dry up your supply almost overnight. And that is really dangerous because you still have that hormonal component.
Right.
And you still have that emotional drop that can come with it, which is why I say don't do it unless somebody's monitoring.
People need to know that that's happening, right? Like, because that's a lot to drop, like we were just saying, right? Like, there's a reason why you're supposed to go low and slow. Like, we get that not everybody probably wants to do that, right? But like, there is like true reason behind that, not just as trying to make your lives really slow.
Yes. Any kind of, Benadryl, Sudafed, any of those, not like Claritin or anything like that. What is the word I'm looking for? Decongestants, any kind of decongestants
Gotcha.
that. Yeah, will impact your supply.
Okay.
So you can do that. I don't recommend it.
Yeah. It's hard.
I think I've only ever recommended that maybe once or twice in my career.
Yeah. No, we totally get that.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, there's lots of things that can be happening, right? Like, and I think it's also important, like, to note that obviously the information we're sharing may be applicable to a lot of people, right? But it's also so important for like them to reach out to some sort of professional too, if you have the ability to, because like it can be really helpful to have that specific information to like your scenario, right? Like we were talking about like weaning when you're dropping pumps. For some people, people don't know what pump to drop, or like if you're only pumping 3 times a day, that's going to be different than if you're pumping 6 times a day. And I think it's so like this kind of episode I like to share so that, people that are listening to it right now at 2 a.m. and are just like feeling like they're done and just want like a little bit of like knowledge. This is what we're here for. If you're listening to this in the middle of the day, this is your chance to go Google, find a good IBCLC or lactation consultant near you, right? Book one of those calls, check your insurance website. And get that support of like that one-on-one too, because getting that information can be so helpful. Because I'm sure like you find yourself giving different information to every single person who's weaning differently, right?
Yeah, because it just depends on what their situation is.
Yeah.
Most of the people that come to me, it's just that they've come to the end of their journey and they're ready to kind of wean and they just don't know where to start.
Yeah.
But there are definitely the handful of people that are just like, breastfeeding has been too hard. Their baby can't latch or is struggling to latch, and they've been going at it for months and they just can't do it anymore. And they just want to wean and transition to formula. There's all kinds of things for that.
Yeah, there's great options. Well,
There
and I
are great
appreciate you
options.
breaking it down into different avenues too, right? Because it truly is like breastfeeding experience for every dyad is different, and making sure that people like kind of feel seen and heard in whatever scenario they're in today was obviously part of our goal, and hopefully people who are listening that are experiencing or wanting to experience weaning can kind of navigate themselves through one of these avenues. So I appreciate you kind of breaking it down and being able to share all that information.
I will add one more thing.
Yes.
There are a handful of people where weaning is going to be a relief. That is also a valid emotion. Like, do not feel guilty if you are relieved that you don't have to do this anymore.
Some people are hyped that they're not going to leak through their shirts. Like,
or that they're not going to be struggling to breastfeed a baby that just can't do it.
I was going to say, or stressed that they don't have enough. I mean,
yeah.
it's so valid. It's so valid.
Feel relieved, embrace that feeling. Feel sad, embrace that feeling. All of your feelings are valid with weaning.
I love it. That's a perfect way to end us. Thank you.
Sure.
I appreciate it. I will make sure Maria's information is in the show notes below if you guys are interested in getting some more support from her, whether it is on weaning or anything else breastfeeding related and feeding babies. Definitely check out her information below. But yes, thank you for joining me. I appreciate it.
No problem. Thanks, Madison.
Thank you so much for tuning into the Postpartum Plan podcast. I hope that today's episode brought you support, relatability, and valuable insight. Remember, you're not alone on this journey. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe and leave a review and share with any of your prenatal and postpartum friends and family. Your feedback helps us reach more parents seeking support. And if you're looking for additional resources, please feel free to connect via Instagram at Serene Moments Doula for constant information, tips, and tricks, or check out my website, www.serenemomentsdoula.com. See you next week.